let me ask, how should we think about, how should we define, what's the best way to describe to other people, if not to ourselves, the Internet of Things?
So when you think about Internet of Things, it's either two things. It's either, it'll make you super lazy or super efficient. As a person, or even as an institution, or as an organization.
Should we pick super efficient?
Yeah, but super lazy is good too sometimes, because you get to spend more time with your family. That's the whole purpose of automation, right? See, the whole idea of automation is you want to do things that you love doing. And you want to eliminate things that are boring and that's not really adding any value to your life. So that's the purpose. Like for the city, right? The city's investment in IoT is to essentially, the return on investment would be by making the city more responsive to the floodings and making it more optimized. They're able to save on tax dollars, they're able to reduce their OPEX, and eventually that saves money for taxpayers like us, right? So that's, end of the day, it comes down to money and things that you love doing. So we cannot take Internet of Things too seriously in the sense that you wear Fitbits because you want to monitor your health. It's not because you have another cool device that you're wearing. Some people might wear it just because it's cool. But that's the bottom line. So that's how I look at it.
I love it. Great. Somebody else?
Well, from an agriculture standpoint, it's you were talking about the not doing the things that you don't like to do. So from our standpoint, farmers used to keep like pencil and paper logbooks of, this is the date I planted, this is what I planted, this is how I planted. And by using technology like the Drive, we can automate that and eliminate a lot of the errors. So one of the things that we have always strived to do is eliminate the data entry. Make it happen just through the course of doing your job, the data is reported, it's accurate, there's no human error, and again, just by performing the tasks that I need to do my job, in the case of farming, by driving my tractor, I'm automatically recording that data, and that becomes my digital logbook for the future.
And I would add one little thing to that, because it builds on what the two of you have said, is not only do you get the accuracy of the data, but you get a precision of data that we don't have through manual collection. So with the array of things, so we know, generally speaking, the temperature in Chicago, right? We can all see the weather. There's actually 3 weather sensors that the National Atmospheric, I always get this wrong, NAOT uses, which is fine for you to figure out if you need to wear a sweater or not. It's actually not enough for us to do medical research about the impact of temperature grades in the city, which actually can range as much as 10 degrees across the city. And sometimes those 3-degree shifts as you cross a street, which we've actually all felt. Did you ever notice that? And you're like, what's that? Those heat sinks, which are an urban phenomenon in most large cities across the world, drive increased rates of asthma and intense skin diseases. And doctors know that. They actually don't know why they happen. And this increased level of the accuracy and precision and amount of the data that we will have will actually allow them to do medical grade research on that problem. So I don't know if that's making us lazy or more efficient, maybe both. But it's going to give them the ability to answer that question.
If I could, adding to that, what you're saying though, take it a step further. You want efficiency, productivity, we all get that. But think about when we think of a smart city in Chicago. We say we want, and we're not saying smart city because we don't like that term, right?
That's okay.
But if you think about the idea of lights, we say, well, we want lights to be more efficient and effective. But that's really not what we want. We do, but what we really want it because we want it to eliminate crime. So if the lights are working all the time, there's less crime. So think about it differently. That's where the IoT is most effective. So when you're saying about being lazy or effective or whatever, it's doing things that we never thought of. That's where the Internet of Things comes into so much more than we didn't think of. That's when it's most effective and most efficient in ways. Now, what did it create? That's when I think it's so powerful.
And I actually want the data to prove whether or not lighting does drive crime rates, so we know whether or not we should make that investment.
You can't have the Internet of Things without data. That's number
exactly
one.
Right.
That's number one.
Right. But also, data, just data by itself is not relevant. data has to have a frame of reference because data becomes information,
Yep.
and then you can respond to that information. And often you don't have everything. Like, you might have all the sensors giving you the data, but there might be some data that's not related to the wired up sensors that you might need. Like, the schedule, the work schedule of the guys who are picking up garbage in the city of Chicago might be totally different from, like, what the sensors are giving you as input and, things like that. So I think everything has to come together, and that's a challenge as well.
I think the interesting thing when you talk about data, and I'm probably going off on a tangent here, but I'm sorry, because we brought up data, but I think as the audience, you're probably going, well, everybody talks about data when the Internet of Things. And that's probably perhaps the biggest mistake we think of. Data is the number one thing with the Internet of Things, that's what I said. But you can't start looking at the Internet of Things with data first. You have to look at what are you trying to uncover first, and then use the data. Everybody says data first. That's the mistake. You have to figure out what are you trying to solve and use that data first, because there is so much data you're going to get the moment you think about the Internet of Things. And you cannot use all the data. There is so much data out there, it's impossible to use. The city gets so much data, I'll bet you if Brenna tried to look at it, she'd shoot herself. Because there's no way she could look at all that data. I mean, it's just impossible. So you have to figure out what are you really using with that data first. Then, from there, make better relevant decisions based on that. And then, now the data becomes very important, very valuable, and you go from there.
I think that's great. And I totally buy into everything that you're saying. I've never heard it said that way quite before, in terms of we're either being super lazy or super efficient, but I love it.